Hey, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, are you okay? How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson reportedly suffering panic attacks as a result of the stress from his job. Now, this is really crazy, and before I go any further into it, let's back up a little bit here to explain who this man is and what may be going on. Now, Brandon Johnson is the mayor of Chicago. He's fairly new into the role. He became the mayor after Lori Lightfoot, and in many ways, he is much worse than her. It's disappointing because you would think after Lori Lightfoot and her disastrous regime, the people of Chicago would go better, but they didn't. They brought in a worse guy, and he has the entire city open to all the migrants coming from the southern border. And he's blaming Texas Governor Greg Abbott, talking about, oh, you guys cannot send them. That's not legal. We're going to impound your buses, all this, that, and the third. But hey, at a certain point, Mr. Johnson, you got to look in the mirror. You are a sanctuary city in Chicago. So you can't get upset when you invite the migrants to your front door and they show up and show out. And also, your governor, J.B. Pritzker, has Illinois as a sanctuary state. So I don't understand what's going on. Why are you trying to blame others for things that you and your governor are doing to yourselves? It makes no sense to me. But apparently, the stress from all this is weighing very heavy on him. And according to at least one reporter, maybe a couple others, he's been having panic attacks. Now, before I get to the article and a little bit of an interview from Mr. Brandon Johnson about what's happening in the city, let's back up and talk about what a panic attack is. Now, I'm no doctor. I'm no medical professional. So if I get anything wrong, you guys, please feel free to correct me in the comments. I know we got RNs and nurses and everything like that watching, so correct me. But basically, a panic attack brought on by stress, maybe anxiety, it's like a medical episode, like you're having a heart attack, but it's not a heart attack. It's a panic attack. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't that what Tony Soprano had in the fictional TV show called The Sopranos, where he'd be passing out behind the wheel and trying to grab a bottle of pills and fall on the floor? And he was going to therapy for the panic attacks, for the anxiety. Again, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But basically, the panic attacks left Mr. Johnson hospitalized, from what I'm reading, on more than one occasion. Now, if you can't take the heat, I say get out the kitchen. I know I'm showing my age of that one, but seriously, if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. If it's too much for you to be the mayor of Chicago, maybe you might want to step down and have somebody else do it. Maybe bring in a more competent person who will close the city off to all the migrants. And if you want to blame the migrant crisis for your alleged reported panic attacks, then again, take a look in the mirror and be like, you know what? You are the source of my problems. And when I say you, I'm talking about you pointing at yourself. You, meaning you are the source of your problems, not anybody else. Now, let's get to this article right quick. This is on Post Millennial. You see what's happening here. Chicago mayor treated at hospital for panic attacks amid illegal immigrant crisis, reporter claims. And the reporter says, 2 sources told me that he has been in the hospital for these panic attacks, and he is stressed out because this is a big, big job for him. Yeah, being the mayor is a big job. I agree. It's a big job. That's why it's not for everybody. Okay, some things, everything is not for everyone. And if this isn't for you, my man, you might want to do something else. And it's, you know what? It's okay to admit that. If he comes out and says, hey, man, it's too much, you know, I got it over my head, it's okay. But you need to admit it and then move on, rather than just staying in there and doing a very poor job at your job. Now, let's continue here. It says, 2 Chicago journalists reported that Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson has become so stressed out that he was hospitalized for panic attacks. John Cass and Anita Padilla broke the news on WGN AM Chicago Way podcast on January 16th, saying that Johnson needed medical help due to increasing stress. They were talking about the illegal immigrant problem on air when Cass said, no amount of antidepressants can cure this problem. I know it's so true, Padilla said. And actually, you brought it up. I was going to bring it up. Now, here's my question. Antidepressants, hopefully this man's not on pills. That's not going to work if you're going to be an elected official. I don't know about y'all. Look, I'm not here to judge people's, mental state, but I don't know about y'all, but I don't want my governor, mayor, alderman. Look, I don't even want my dog catcher to be on pills. I want you to be clean and sober and feeling good. I don't want you stressed out on the job because you're not going to make good, sound, rational decisions that's going to affect me if I live in this particular area. I mean, if you guys think differently, you don't mind having your governor, mayor, or whatever on pills, y'all let me know in the comments, but I digress. We continue. The panic attacks, Cass said, the mayor's panic attacks. Can we talk about that? Padilla asks, because two sources told me that he has been in the hospital for these panic attacks, and he is stressed out because this is a big, big job for him. He wasn't ready for it, Cass said. He is not ready for it. Padilla said, he is not. He's not a leader. I'm sorry. He's not a leader. And a leader, brings people up and supports them. And the Chicago police are still waiting to see where that comes from. Yeah, he put in a good superintendent, but I still think that he needs to prove himself to police. Where does he stand on that? The immigration issue, this is not helping him at all in the situation. All right. So there's more talking about don't blame Texas or whatnot. This is more of their comments from the podcast, and shout out to them. I will link to this particular article in the box, but let's get to an interview that the Chicago mayor did recently. I don't believe he addresses the whole panic attack kerfuffle here, but let's just take a look at him and examine him with the context we have now that reportedly he's been having panic attacks. It's a really big job and he might not be ready for it. Knowing that alleged context, let's watch this interview. Let's check it out.
I want to talk about this year. New year, same mayor, new budget, right? But same mission. You talked a lot about treatment, not trauma in your campaign, and you're inching closer and closer to getting that done. When do you expect crisis responders to be on 911 calls?
So it's not just about reopening 2 mental health clinics that were closed, but it's also about providing care because...
Let's pause right here. I got to pause because I don't want them to try to give me a copyright.
40% of the 911 calls that were coming through really required a mental health care response.
But do we know which neighborhoods or when?
Well, as I said, whether it's Austin, whether it's Rose.
Well, look, if you want to have mental health care response to a 911 call, I hope we're not just going to bring out people that are pushing papers, social workers and whatnot, because some of these areas where you call in the police are going to be very dangerous. And I'm not trying to have Miss Sally from DCFS get deleted because she got sent out there into the wolves.
Roseland, whether it's North Lawndale, Garfield Park, pick a side of the city of Chicago on the west or south side, or pick a neighborhood.
We've been on the street in those communities as well. And when we talk to voters, a lot of times they'll voice concerns about being frustrated that they don't think your administration is hearing them because of
the migrants is going to be the biggest thing. I've seen plenty of videos of Chicago residents, regular everyday people talking about the migrant crisis is a big issue, and the mayor is not hearing their voices on their concern over that.
Them because of the monies that are being spent on the migrant crisis that they're not seeing. It seems like this money just appears out of thin air, but isn't being invested in their own communities.
Facts, big facts. So let's hear his response and check out the body language.
Why do you think they feel that way?
Well, because again, Black and brown neighborhoods, and particularly Black communities, have been disinvested in. Keep in mind that the migrant crisis, this international global crisis, really requires a federal resource response.
What if the federal government doesn't help you?
Well, clearly they haven't thus far.
Exactly. So what are you going to do? What's the solution here? You know what you could do? The first thing you could do right now is stop being a sanctuary city and tell your man J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, to stop being a sanctuary state.
That's sustainable, because you've said it isn't sustainable.
Well, I think you've answered it. No, it's not sustainable. The Congress does have to act. And if they do not act, this is going to continue to cause the type of chaos that the governor of Texas wants to do.
But
the governor of Texas, so on one hand, it's an international problem, But on the other hand, it's the governor of Texas causing the problem. So which one is it? It can't be both. It can't be this big international thing you need help from the federales to fix. And at the same time, it's the fault of the Texas governor.
We're running out of space. So where are these people going to go?
27 shelters, what I've built.
And they're all full.
And we have provided education, health care for these families. And we did all of that without having to cut back on services to people, as I've already expressed, that have been set at the margins for generations.
So we've asked all of these questions, and we've talked to people in your city council, people on the street. They're frustrated with the lack of transparency from your administration. They say, shelters are opening up in my ward, and I don't know they're opening until they're open. Why do you feel like those who you're working with collaboratively and those who have voted for you feel you are not being transparent?
Great question. Let's see what he says here.
If people believe that there's more information that's available, then they're looking for nothing. Because I've been absolutely clear about this mission.
Kind of an adversarial tone there a little bit, just a little bit, kind of on edge. Maybe I'm just being biased because of what I read about him allegedly having panic attacks. But as I close, I want to say this. Hey, Brandon Johnson, if you're having panic attacks and you go into the hospital over the stress of your job, you need to go ahead and step down because it's not going to get any easier. You're not going to have the crisis at the border end anytime soon because we got the federales still doing what they do, which is nothing. And Texas has to deal with it, so you guys are going to get it. Maybe you can stop being a sanctuary city in the state. That'll shut it down. But if that's still going on, the problem will persist as long as you guys don't do anything to try to put it into it. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What do you think about the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, having panic attacks because of the stress of the job? Should he still stay on and just try to work through it? Should he go ahead and just step down, let someone else take over? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. Obviously, you need to step down because it's too much going on for you, boss. It's too much. You can't take it, and it's fine. Everything, as I said from the beginning, everything is not for everyone, obviously. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.